or if they're failing on compliance, and you can also use an automated line. Do you have a reference number to hand?
I'm afraid I don't at the moment. I'm phoning on behalf of my ex-partner. She's a badly disabled lady, and she's had a couple of texts through. She's behind with her council tax. I was just getting some general information off you, really. Could you help me, please?
Yeah, bear with me one moment.
I love that Welsh accent.
I don't.
Oh.
Okay, so do you have a postcode or anything?
No, she's asked me not to give any of her details out. She's a little bit worried about dealing with you. I'd just like to know, can you false entry for council tax?
So if it's with an enforcement agent,
Yeah.
They can gain peaceful entry, but they aren't allowed to take any essential goods or anything like that.
Right, so they can't false entry? Because that's her main worry. She's worried that, a locksmith's going to turn up and drill her doors, or they're sort of like going to break the door down. And they can't do that for council tax, can they?
No, they won't do anything like break the door down or anything. But I think what maybe you could suggest to her to do is, the best thing for her to do is get in touch with us. Obviously, because I don't know at the moment whether it's with an enforcement agent or not.
Yeah,
and
she's had a couple of text messages from an enforcement agent, so it is with the enforcement agent. So it's my understanding that if she doesn't let you in, you can't break in, and they would have to gain, as you said, peaceful entry.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I'll have to double check, but I'm sure that they can, possibly change the lock. Not change it, but if you kind of get what I mean. I'm not really too sure. I'll have to double check with that.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, a friend of mine who's dealt with your company before has said that is it the only reason that you could break in for a civil debt is if you'd been in previously and, levied goods. So that you if you've been allowed in previously, they can come back and then false entry because they'd levied goods in there. But she's never had you at her door yet, so that shouldn't come up. Is that right?
Obviously, if she's obviously you stated that she's disabled, so obviously that's vulnerable. So the enforcement agents are vulnerable to change, and they will know that. Like, they won't do anything to put her at risk or anything like that. I think the best thing for her to do is, I know maybe she's nervous or whatever, I can understand, but I think the best thing for her to do is contact that enforcement agent on that case, to inform that agent of what's going on, because it's better just keep in contact with them. They'll have a lot more understanding, and they won't be so like, are they ignoring me or things like that, because sometimes they do think, if they don't get responses, people are just like not trying to avoid it, kind of thing, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. I've got to say, you've just passed the test with flying colours, because you've actually picked up on what I said right at the start, which was that she's disabled and therefore vulnerable. Most bailiff companies, in my experience, would try and say that she isn't vulnerable, so they could carry on and try and collect the debt. So hats off to you. You sound like a really decent human being.
Thank you very much. Well, I wouldn't want anything like that to happen to anyone. And obviously, if she's in that situation, she's vulnerable. I just think that the best thing to do is to inform that agent, so they are aware of this as well.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll have as much integrity and morals as you have, because most bailiffs just see money flying away from them when they realise that they've got a vulnerable person in front of them. So, babe, thank you ever so much for your time. You've been really helpful.
No problem. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
I hope it all gets worked out for you.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
First time I've ever spoken to a bailiff company, I think, that has actually picked up on she's disabled, because right at the end of the call I was going to say, oh, by the way, I did tell you she's disabled. Would that not make her vulnerable? So I'll put a link in the comments for the vulnerability letters. And remember, guys, it's not just being disabled that makes you vulnerable. if you are recently bereaved, if you're having a hard time with depression, stress, and stuff like that, and this goes back to the Equalities Act of 2010. You know, if you're impaired, and you don't need medical evidence to say that. I mean, medical evidence is really good. You know, having a letter from your doctor saying this person is stressed, this person, you know, is vulnerable, is brilliant. But a lot of the time they don't accept them. You've just got to keep going with it. If you keep going with it, yeah, it makes it harder and harder for them to deny it. Don't just accept them saying, we don't think you're vulnerable, yeah, and then roll over to them. Don't do that. You know, this is a golden bullet. The vulnerability letters is a golden bullet, but you've got to be persistent with it. You've got to, you've got to force it. And if you've got a friend that likes an argument, that wants to do it for you, that looks even better, because the fact that a friend's doing it means that you're vulnerable. Hope this helps.